I'm your host, Dr. Elizabeth Ssemanda, the intuitive psychiatrist, and you're tuning in to Stepping into Soul Power. Friends, we've got an extraordinary episode just for you. Our returning guest is a champion of self-empowerment, wisdom, ancestral healing. She is just a phenomenal doctor of naturopathic medicine, author, psychic medium, renowned host of a top podcast. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's our honor to welcome back the incredible Dr. Lotte Valentin.
Well, thank you so much for having me back. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. So we're going to talk about a topic that is close to my heart, the mother wound. Can you explain, what the mother wound is and why it's so critical for us to heal it?
Right. That's such a good question. And, for people out there listening, thinking, well, I don't have a mother wound. I love my mom. My mom was great. She was like my best friend. Mm-hmm. And, ancestral healing is a form of counseling that I studied after I graduated from med school. And it was really interesting because the day we got to the mother wound, that's exactly what I told myself. I said, oh, today is going to be so easy. I don't even have a mother wound. I love my mom. She was so nurturing and she was so caring. Couldn't have asked for anybody better. And as we're going through all the different things that people struggle with when they have a mother wound, guess what? I realized I had a mother wound too, even though I had a mom that I always admired. She was so nurturing, so loving. And it's really interesting. And I think that, people that look at their moms and they say, well, I have a mother wound because my mom couldn't see me. My mom never understood me. My mom had substance abuse issues, or she was abusive in some way. And she deserted me. She abandoned me. And you know that you have an issue with your mom, right? So that's kind of on the surface. It's like the writing is on the wall. Yes. But when you have a mother wound that came from a loving and nurturing mom, it's not so readily visible, right? It's much harder to see that writing on the wall. But the interesting part is, I think all people have a mother wound because when you think about it, why would we incarnate into a family if we weren't going to learn something from that mother? And a mother wound is when we have struggles in our life, it starts with mom. And that's why when I'm teaching, we always start with the mother wound, because once you resolve your mother wound and you start to understand that who you became in this life isn't just by chance, but it's also your own lived experiences with that person that, raised you, whether it's your mother or your adoptive mother or whoever it was that raised you, maybe your grandparents. And that mother wound, right, it can show up in different ways. So I'm going to say almost any struggle that you have, we always go back to the mother wound. It could be, why is that promotion? Why am I never getting promoted at work? Why am I having imposter syndrome and I feel like a fraud? I feel like, I don't have the confidence to step into my power. Why is it that I have anxiety? Why am I afraid of these different things? Why do I have these, maybe even physical concerns? Maybe you have, diabetes or whatever. And is that tied to a mother wound? It could be. So when we look at, when we start questioning, why is it that we have the struggle? So many times we have a struggle. We go to a counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, or doctor or nurse or whoever can help us. And we look at the problem, and many times we're given a medication. If you have anxiety, they say, okay, well, try this medication and maybe that works, but that's just a Band-Aid that we give that person so that they can function, and go on with their life. But when it comes to resolving the issue, where does it come from and how do we resolve that? So even if you look at, physical diseases, when we look at what we have found in DNA and studies, things that get passed down from our previous generations, isn't just our hair color, our eye color, right? But also trauma and the lived experiences of our ancestors gets passed down on the DNA. So when you look at the things that we struggle with in our daily life, well, where did it come from? Some of it is the way we were raised, because when we're little toddlers, we have unconditional love for our parents because we're dependent on them. We need a place to sleep and we need some food, right? Because we're just 2 years old. And many times the patterns within the families, we know that from studies, gets repeated throughout the generations. So the little girl, for example, that grows up with a father that may have problems with alcohol, and he drinks way too much, and and maybe he only drinks on the weekends, but when he does, his mood changes and he becomes more aggressive, and all the things that go along with substance abuse. But when that little girl grows up, what is she attracted to? She's attracted to the same person that her father was. And we see these patterns repeat. So she marries someone that is just like her dad, or just the way her dad was. And this is really interesting because this is how I got into ancestral healing. I was doing mediumship readings and saw the patterns kept repeating through the generations. And that's what originally led me into studying ancestral healing. But that is the pattern that comes then from mom. So if you're a little girl, you're actually aligning and merging with your mom. And because when you're little, you say it to yourself as a 2-year-old, I love you, Mom. I can see how you struggle. When I grow up, I'm also going to struggle just like you, because Mom could not resolve that pattern. And she was the one who was being abused maybe by that father. The little girl grows up and does the same thing in order to resolve that pattern.
I want to step back a little bit because you mentioned something really interesting, and you had mentioned that having a mother wound is something that anyone can have, and for people who have those great relationships with their parent, with mom, how will they know? What are the indications that, hey, maybe there's something that I need to address?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say the most common thing that I see, the most common pattern with people who say, they get on my screen and they say, no, I don't have a mother wound. We're like a Leave It to Beaver family. Like we were, I love my parents. I already know what they're going to tell me that they're struggling with, because the most common pattern I see is when we have a nurturing and loving mom, we also had to earn the love in return as a child by doing the things that this loving mother said. So it might be, the common things are, if it's a little girl, you help with the dishes, you set the table, you go clean up your room, because that's what good little girls do. Good little girls don't speak back to mom. We don't shout at mom. We do what we're told. But as we grow up, we take this pattern and we transpose that onto the partners. And so the person typically says, well, I'm with this guy and he's really nice and he's a good provider, but I don't feel seen and heard in the relationship. I feel, like I'm doing everything. Well, that's how you were raised. And you're repeating that pattern the way your mom was. And that's how she was taught when she was little, that if you're a good little girl and you're going to grow up to get married and you're going to be liked, then you have this more submissive type of behavior. You don't speak back. You don't voice your opinion. And then they grow up and they get into this relationship, and the world has changed quite a bit in the last 100 years. So now we're in a relationship, and maybe this woman is also working, but she's stuck doing everything. She carries that mental load and she doesn't feel seen and heard in the relationship, but it's because she's repeating the pattern of her mom. Her mom also wasn't seen and heard, but she put up with that pattern because she lived in a different era. But now we're living in the modern era and we can't see it. We can't see it. It's like we have a blindfold on, because we're doing exactly what we did as a child to earn the love from mother. And then we repeat that pattern and we don't understand why we're not getting the love in return. Well, it's because you took that pattern and you put it onto the partner, and the partner has no idea what it is that you're looking for. They're thinking, well, I'm doing a good job. I'm being a good provider. I'm
Mm.
showing up, at 6 o'clock at night, for dinner. What's the problem? And I'm going to say that is the most common problem I see, is that the woman doesn't feel seen and heard in the relationship. It's
Yeah.
very common. And it's hard to see it yourself, because you are reenacting the pattern that you were taught as a child. But it's hard to see it unless you go deeper in and say, well, why is it? Because all we see is that we're doing the right thing. And that's a very common issue. But then there is, of course, many, many other issues that show up in people's lives. It's like once you start creating the awareness,
Yeah.
it's like you're peeling back an onion. Once you resolve that issue, something else comes up and you start seeing how you were raised and why things are the way they are.
So I wonder, you have one thing that you're really great at is combining science and spirituality, and I find it fascinating. And I know your work combines neuroscience, quantum entanglement, and shamanic practices. Can you speak a little bit about those powerful disciplines, how they come together in helping understand and heal deep rooted wounds like the mother wound?
Yeah, I think, the biggest, in order for us to create healing in our own lives, we have to, number one, create the awareness. If we don't have the awareness of why it is we have certain struggles, then we can't heal it. So all these different things that we do, we have different ceremonies and we send healing to our ancestors and, a general kind of, I'm sending healing to all of you. And of course, all of that is good. And I tell people, you can never go wrong with sending healing to your ancestors or your loved ones or anybody in the world, even your enemies, because quantum physically, we are all entangled, right? So if two people meet, so let's say your mom has a friend that you have never met, but you are still entangled with your mom's friend because you know your mom. So quantum physically, we are entangled with all those people. So when you think about that, we're entangled with all our ancestors, all our friends, all our extended families. But I'm going to say the wounds that we carry, though you can carry wounds that go beyond the family and go to, dad's partner at work, and you're kind of entangled with that because dad works with that person. But I'm going to say most people, the wounds that we carry in this life come from our immediate, I call it the soul family. So people that are really close to you, either they're relatives or people that, are really close, like your best friend that you grew up with. That I consider those people part of the soul family.
Mm-hmm.
We have people that we call our soul sister, or right.
Yeah.
They just feel like they're part of your family. And so we're entangled with all those people, but we're entangled quantum physically with those people, but we're entangled via DNA with our direct ancestors, where we came from. And when you take a look at, who we are and who we are in this life, you came from an egg from your mom. Your mom made that egg that you came from when she was a 20-week-old fetus in your grandmother's womb. So when we think about what was going on for your mom when she was a 20-week-old fetus in your grandmother's womb, and what was going on in your grandmother's life at that time. Because when we look at how things gets passed down, just even genetically, we know from scientific studies that they've already identified certain genes, and they can see how things gets passed down and how that changes things for us, how we experience things. But even the traumatic events that our ancestors experienced that get swept under the carpet and that are never resolved, well, if it wasn't resolved, it gets passed down. Just when you look at the simple story of father was an alcoholic, he had substance abuse issues, that's in your immediate family, so it's easy to see it, right? And then you repeat that pattern because when you have that unconditional love for your mom as a toddler, and you can see how she suffers. And I mean, sometimes people say these things outright, and I'll never forget this one woman who lost her mom when she was 10 years old. And she had all these chronic conditions and all these problems with her health. And right away I said, I know you got all these chronic conditions, but this just feels ancestral. So let's take a look at it ancestrally. And it turns out that she lost her mom to like cancer when she was 10. And when she was 10 at the funeral, she said, Mom, I love you so much. And I'm going to be sick just like you when I grow up. And literally, like, she became sick almost at the exact same age. So it's really interesting when you hear stories like that. And then for that person, it was to resolve those issues and let go of that to create, healing for herself.
Wow. Wow. I wonder, since you've worked with lots of different people, and what I'm getting at is sometimes the mother wound can show up in subtle ways, but it affects everything. So in your experience, what are some surprising ways that the mother wound manifests in our everyday lives?
Oh, there's so many ways. I mean, it could be, another common one is, I'm going to say the imposter syndrome is really common. So here is this client who is a lawyer. So I had this woman, she was a lawyer and she was so successful. She had this like amazing job, making lots of money. She was so good at what she was doing. And she said, I can't even put my diploma on the wall because somebody's like the worst imposters. Somebody's going to figure out I'm not this good. I'm not that good at this. And I'm like, you are good at this, right? I mean, you look at what you have accomplished. You have this amazing job and so many clients, right? It doesn't matter. That person is still going to feel that way. Mm-hmm. So the problem you have to resolve is, well, why is it that you feel that way, right? And then you go in and you look at, who is your mom? Well, mom never got to study. Mom never got a higher degree, but mom was really smart. And mom never felt good enough because a lot of her friends had degrees and she felt lesser. She always felt lesser than other people. So, the wound gets passed down, and this client, even though she had these higher degrees and she was very successful, that wound comes from mom because when she was little, subconsciously, we see our mom and we know everything about our mom, right? We know exactly when to ask for ice cream and when not to ask for ice cream, right? Because, mom's not in a good mood. Don't do it now, right? We all know these things intuitively as young children. But we also intuitively know that I see you, mom. I see how you struggle. I see how you feel inferior and that you don't have a degree and your friends have a degree. We take on those issues and then we repeat that. The whole basis is that we love mom unconditionally and we see how she suffers. She can't resolve that for herself. So we say, don't worry, mom. I got this. I'm going to take on this wound for you and I'm going to fix it. Right. And all these different things gets passed down through the generations of, and the same thing with, people we don't talk about. We sweep it under the carpet. But the mother wound is always where you start when you're going to do any kind of healing, because by healing your own mother wound or mother wounds, because I'm going to say many times we have more than one mother wound. And I see that when I teach, teach this course on the mother wound and how people say everything shifted for them when they go through my course, because I bring up so many different examples and then I guide them on creating healing for themselves. I say, pick an issue and then we're going to go through all these different steps to create healing for that issue. But once we create healing for ourselves, for our own issues, things change, right? And I've seen just the most remarkable stories of how people say, well, I haven't spoken to my child for 3 years or 5 years or whatever. And the communication has completely broken down. And we go through this ancestral healing and guess what? That child all of a sudden calls them and says, I just wanted to reach out. How are you doing, Mom? And the connection is reestablished. I worked with a client just maybe a few weeks ago that I hadn't seen in a year. And I worked with her. We did the mother wound healing. And she had not spoken to her mom. And she was a woman in her 60s. She had not spoken to her mom in like 10 years and completely, severed those ties. We went through the mother healing. And guess what? Now, a year later, she says, I talk to my mom every day.
Oh, wow.
And this woman also had gone through a divorce in the meantime, and she was on her own. And she says, my mother is even helping to support me right now. And that's all we did, is go through to heal the mother wound. Because when we create healing for ourselves, things change within ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we get, I'm going to say it's like we resonate now at a different frequency, because we created healing for ourselves. We created an awareness of why it is that we're struggling with certain things. Why is it that certain things aren't working? And when we create healing for that, because we all have a frequency and we're all connected, right, through quantum physics, that mother or that child or that person is going to feel that even at a distance, because we are quantumly entangled physically. And when you change your frequency and you heal yourself, even if you don't even talk to the other people, they are going to feel that, because you're sending out a different signal now. And that's what's just so amazing about healing or creating healing, because if we all did the work, if we all healed ourselves and created healing for ourselves, our world will look different, because we are entangled with everybody in the world. And if we all go into creating healing for ourselves, we're also going to change the world. The more people that do the healing, and I always tell people, forget about everybody else. Just focus on you.
Yes.
It's about healing you. The rest will sort of fall into place by itself.
Absolutely. I think it's almost like a ripple effect, backwards, and it sounds like forwards. And
Yes.
That's just how powerful addressing mother wounds can be. For those who are interested in enrolling, where can they sign up? Where can they learn more?
Yeah. So, I have recorded, so I've taught this class for hundreds and hundreds of people. But now I have recorded this class to make it available to everybody in a self-study version. So if you go to drlotte.com, drlotte.com, you can find it there, or, you might want to just put a link in the podcast notes, where people can just click on the link and it will take you straight into that course, and the course sits on the Teachable platform. So it's very easy. It's a professional teaching platform, and you log in there, and then all the different, modules, I try to keep them to 20 to 30 minutes to make it easy and accessible for people, because sometimes an hour can be a long time for people to sit down if they have, families or work or other obligations in life. But it takes you on, I take you on different guided shamanic meditation journeys during this course as well, to help you uncover the wounds and then also to heal and release them. So, and it comes with a PDF exercises, so you can just follow along and create this healing on a very, very deep level for yourself, but also for all the people that are part of your life, because you are creating healing for them at the same time as you're healing yourself.
Oh, that's beautiful. So before we wrap up, if you could, pick a soul power statement for those people out there where they have a mother wound that's really weighing on them, what would it be?
What would it be to create healing? I'm going to say create that awakening, within yourself, in order to create healing, because nothing is impossible, right? Nothing is impossible. And sometimes life feels impossible, and we feel like we're walking on the bottom of the ocean in the darkness kind of feeling, right? And I'm going to say a lot of people go through that at some point in their life, but instead of staying at the bottom of the dark ocean, do something to create that healing. awaken that healing within you, because nothing is ever impossible, because we are truly divine miracles that are walking this earth. And it all has to do with just creating awareness. Once you have the awareness, you can heal it. And, it's my wish for everybody to be able to create healing in their own life, and so that they can live their most happiest and powerful lives in this lifetime. Because we all were born with, honestly, we were all born with things that we had to learn to resolve. And sometimes those wounds seem impossible, but let me tell you, they aren't impossible. So just step into that. Allow yourself to create that healing for yourself. You can't heal other people, but you can heal yourself. And by healing yourself, you're helping other people to create healing as well.
Beautiful. Well, Dr. Lily, thank you so much for sharing your incredible wisdom and light with us today. This conversation has been nothing short of enlightening, and I know that our listeners will walk away with so much to think about. You truly are a powerful light in this world.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. If you haven't heard it yet today, I appreciate you. The soul in me honors the soul in you. If you'd like to see more episodes like this, please subscribe or click here. And friends, if this spoke to you, leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you.